This is Dr. Neufeld with another set of pictures, this one throughout the Roman Empire, which is fascinating because remember how large the Roman Empire became. It covered most of Europe, North Africa, and West Asia. So we're going to be looking at places throughout Turkey and Italy and Egypt and France, Germany, Spain, Portugal, and see remnants from the Roman Empire, columns, domes, arches, aqueducts, some of the things that they created and some of the things that we create today, but we still use traditions that the Romans started. Now, again, remember, this is the Roman Empire, so we're going to be looking at Turkey, which was the Eastern Roman Empire, Italy, where it all started. We're also going to be looking at Egypt, which is in North Africa, because I've been there, taking some pictures of that land, including Alexandria. We're also going to be looking at a few photos of Roman remnants in France and Germany. Now, this is a land that the Romans conquered much later because they were Germanic people. They weren't originally part of the Roman Empire, and we're talking about southern Germany. Spain and Portugal also has remnants from the Roman Empire, both during Roman times, but in modern technology and construction today. So that's what we're going to be looking at. Also, I'm going to be going really fast on these pictures because I have so many. What I'd like for you to do, though, if you want, you could stop and look in more detail at the pictures since I'm going to go fast. One of the things we're looking at first are remnants like these are the aqueducts. Romans built aqueducts outside of their major cities like Rome and Istanbul, Turkey, to bring in their water. But they had to store their water. This is when I was in Istanbul, and I found this. And again, it's an entrance, but you go underground. And this is where the Romans stored their water. So it's just a storage area. People didn't go down here to look at it, but look at all the Roman arches and columns. But also what is fascinating about this area is you can see how the water has worn into these columns. Look at this picture down at the bottom. That is an old statue of one of the Romans' first gods when they were polytheistic. They believed in many gods. But then remember, the Romans converted to Christianity. So they took down these columns and put up columns and statues of one God, Jesus. And so they used these old statues and just put them underground here in their water storage area. So it's fascinating to see this in Istanbul, Turkey. Now, again, it doesn't rain water today. If you look at the top, you see the weeds growing through, but still, just the fact that this is standing 2,000 years later, instead of tearing it down, I'm glad we just built our roads through it. But it's fascinating. Also now, this is just outside the city of Istanbul. If you're going up the Bosphorus River towards the Black Sea, this is where there would be stops so the Romans could charge taxes or fees for people moving in. These are Roman columns on the side of the river that are still standing 2,000 years later. These were built by the Romans to protect their city of Constantinople. 2,000 years. Now, this is after I went up to the Bosphorus River, and this is the Black Sea. And look at all the boats at the Black Sea ready to come down the Bosphorus River to the big trade city of Constantinople, which, remember, today is called Istanbul. Again, back in Istanbul. Now I'm going to be looking at Roman trade centers, some artifacts from the Roman times. This is a major street. Just off a major street, but you can see it's called a bazaar, the Grand Bazaar. This is where people trade. Now, today in the United States, we have shopping malls and things like that. But in these cities like Istanbul, there's still trade cities like this. And when you go inside, this is trade or, again, shopping areas where you buy and sell. This one has been modernized, though, because look at the electricity they put in and flat screen TVs. But this is where people would go, still today, to trade from many things like food items. This is that one bazaar. There are many bazaars. Eastern Europe is known for their food spice. These are all the things you can buy in Constantinople, which is today called Istanbul. I also have been into Athens, Greece. Remember, Greeks and Romans are very similar. For example, on their gods, it's their names that they just changed, but they're the same gods. Many of their buildings are the same. The columns are different, though. These are the columns of the major buildings still standing in Athens, Greece. This is a museum I visited in Athens, so statues of their emperors. In this case, again, clay jars, thousands, millions still around the city. And this is modern day, just sitting out there. But the reason Athens was such an important city, their major cities, because it was protected. It was on this small mountain made of rock and stone. So it was very hard to attack. And this is where the monuments are up on top. Here's an old monument for the Emperor Hadrian. Of course, it's been attacked and taken apart, but this is still part of the original statue of Emperor Hadrian. Again, beautiful architecture with these columns in Athens, Greece. Here's a Roman sidewalk, which is the broken tile. Beautiful sidewalks in Greece. Again, we see some of their gods that we use still today. Some of their names, for example, Adidas, the shoe company, uses that name from the Roman god. Again, 2,000 years old. Now it's, falling apart, but still, arches, parts of buildings are still standing throughout the city when you're walking down the street. We don't see things like this in the United States. Look at this old Roman stadium that is still used today for concerts, overlooking the city. I believe this is one of the places for the gods in Athens. I remember visiting there. Again, just incredible to see this. This is in Athens, Greece. Again, many stadiums. In fact, every Roman city had stadiums. Some were huge, some were small. And remember, they didn't have a speaker system or anything like that. But it was designed so you could hear, even if you're seated at the top, you could hear the people on stage talking without speakers or anything. And I tried that when I was at Alexandria, Virginia. Just incredible how it still works today. This is beautiful. At night, Athens, Greece. Another Roman city many of you have heard about is Pompeii, Italy. This is where the volcano exploded and covered the city. And that's why so much of the city here like this is still intact, because it was covered for a couple hundred years by the ashes, and now we've dug up all the ashes, and that's why you still see part of the city. Again, this is Pompeii. You see the sidewalks on the side. Now, this was a smaller city. It wasn't rich like Rome. So in Rome, maybe you might have, the rich people would have bathrooms and sinks in their houses. Not everybody did here, and including in Pompeii. So if you went to the bathroom, you went in a bucket, then in the morning you'd throw it out down the street. And that's why down towards the bottom of the picture, you see the three arches there. This was your crosswalk. So you could walk across the street without having to walk in the mess that people dumped. But also the arches, those columns were placed there so that a chariot could drive down the street and the wheels would fit in the spaces on the side. So the street could still be used. So this is the city of Pompeii, Italy. Again, here's a stadium, a smaller one, but still used today. Again, another street with a sidewalk and the crosswalk, buildings on the side. Here's a place to get water. This is, again, a big shopping district. Look how long this street is in Pompeii, Italy. Here is, there's many of these remnants. Remember, people were covered by ashes. And then later, a couple hundred years, when man is digging up this area and they find this compact area with frozen ashes now, rock ashes, on top and bottom, but this like air with bones inside because the body had decomposed. So man poured in something like this concrete to find out what was the shape. Then they removed the ashes, and this is the shape of what had been there. Man asleep when the ashes ate. Here's a department store in Pompeii, Italy. Again, some of the buildings in Pompeii. Here's the end of a major street. This is going into the market district. Here is Mount Vesuvius in the background. This is where the volcano exploded and covered Pompeii. Now, throughout Pompeii, that's why we still have many of these clay jars here, water bottles, things like that. And this is an artifact, again, of a person who must have woken up when Mount Vesuvius was erupting and was sitting praying when covered with ashes. So this is in the city of Pompeii, Italy. Some Roman statues. So here's some artifacts in Venice, Italy. Now this is more the 1500s. This is Rialto Bridge. Remember, city of Italy is all on water. So you see the street here. Everything's on water. And why? Because it was great protection. It would be hard for people to attack you. Here's the Piazza San Marco Square in Italy. And this is just a beautiful artifact. This is St. Mark's Church, Basilica, the artwork in Venice, Italy. And again, St. Mark's Square, beautiful place to go spend the day. You see the church. Here's the canals. Again, it's not streets. Everything's on water. This is called the Bridge of Sighs because on the building on the left was a courthouse. The building on the right is a jail. And so it's called the Bridge of Sighs. Sigh when you are unhappy. This is when prisoners were found guilty and now they're being taken across to jail. And they would walk across this bridge and be able to look out for the last time and see the open city. This is from the City Hall in Venice, Italy. It's St. Mark's Square at night. Now we're looking at a little city called Pisa, Italy. And Pisa is where we have the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Now, I think most of you have heard of it or seen of it, but many people will, and you will learn later, that whenever there was a church back in the time, the 13 and 1400s, they built 3 buildings as part of a church. Here's the main church. Here's a baptistry for children to be baptized when they are born, and then the tower to tell us time. Now, many people have never even seen photos of the church or the baptistry, but everybody has seen the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Because when this Leaning Tower was built, it's called leaning because it right away started to lean. It would move a little bit every year till finally, I think it was in the 1970s or 80s, they said, you know, if it keeps moving, it's going to collapse. It's never going to be a famous place for people to visit. It wasn't until, though, that time, like 1980s or 90s, when they found a way to stop it from moving because the ground was so soft there. That's why it started to fall over. But they know that if they straightened it up, they wouldn't have the tourists to come out anymore. So they were able to stop it from leaning, but to not straighten it up so that people could still come out to see it. So that's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. In the background on the right-hand side, that's the main church of the city of Pisa. Here it is. Beautiful, huge church. And there's the baptistry. So many people do not even know about these 2 other parts until you've been there. So I hope you've had a chance to someday go to the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The first time I went there, I was able to crawl to the top, which is weird because when you walk up here, you're walking at an angle, but since the building's at an angle, you feel like you're walking downstairs when you're really going upstairs. It's a weird feeling to get. Now we're going to look at such places as Alexandria in Egypt. This is in North Africa where the Romans had ruled at one time. And here in the city of Alexandria, again, is another small Roman stadium. Columns everywhere. Again, Romans were European. They're from Italy, but they ruled Egypt in North Africa. Here's one of the crosswalks, the beautiful broken tile. Again, artifacts everywhere of Roman times, before and after when the Egyptians ruled. There are also some Roman Christian buildings in Alexandria. Here's some of the first Christian churches. Look how small this is in Egypt, in North Africa. Now, remember one thing that we studied is the Catholic Church split into two groups, the Roman Catholics in the West and the Eastern Orthodox in the East. So these are Eastern Orthodox Christian churches in Egypt. Now, most people in Egypt today are Muslims, but there are still some Christians there. And these beautiful icons here, remember everything's metal except the main character is a painting. But those were all from Alexandria, Egypt. Now I'm just going to look at a few other different places, again, with columns and arches that we still use today. This is a more modern, famous building in Paris, France, but we still use many of the Romans, columns, and arches today in our own buildings. This is in Paris, France, too. I forget who this is a memorial for. Remember, we saw the one for Constantinople and Rome. This is in Paris, France, just outside the Louvre. This is the largest art museum in the world. This is the new modern entrance to the Louvre. A fantastic place we're going to study more a little later when I show you the pictures. But again, I love going there to the Louvre. There are also Egyptian obelisks. The Romans loved them so much that they brought them back to their cities in Rome, Italy, London, England, Paris, France, even though these are Egyptian. That was in Paris, France. This is another example of Roman architecture. This is Notre Dame, Catholic Church in Paris, France. Now this one just last year, though, I'm sure you saw it in the news, most of it burned down just last year. So who knows what's going to happen with Notre Dame again. Beautiful place. I've gone to Mass there several times. Inside, you see the statues of the Catholic priests and angels and Notre Dame. These are the artifacts to scare people, the devils from coming in, but they are used to drain rainwater. This is all at Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, France. This is still in Paris, France, one of the many Egyptian obelisks. This is walking up the street. I'll come up with the name in a minute. Major street in Paris, France, because you can see the arch down here. This is the Arc de Triomphe, built by one of the one of the French kings about the end of the war. Now it's hard to see how big this is. Although you can see people down here at the bottom. When you look at the top, this place is huge. This is a memorial to people who were killed in some of the past French wars. Now, again, looking at some more columns, domes, and arches. This is in Germany. This is in Berlin, Germany. So you could see how we still use Roman columns and arches today. This is at a church I went to in Berlin, but when I got to the top here to look down out in front, a beautiful waterfall, green grass. This is in Germany. Beautiful example of buildings that we build today. Still, we use Roman columns and arches. This is also in Berlin. This is the Reichstag. This is the federal government building, kind of their Congress building in modern-day Berlin, Germany. It's pretty much destroyed by World War II. Hitler even tried to burn it once when he ruled, but it's been rebuilt and modernized. Here's some Orthodox churches throughout Greece. Again, their churches are really small. Sometimes they can only fit like 10 to 20 people. These are Christians, but they're Eastern Orthodox Christians. They're not Roman Catholics. Remember, this is when the Christian church split into two groups when the Roman Empire split. So many hundreds of tiny little churches throughout Greece. I hope you get a chance to visit this land someday. I can't remember how many churches I saw while I was there. Now, the city of Ephesus is in Greece. This is still a Roman city. Yes, it collapsed, but there's so much that is still part of it that is there today. This is the city of Ephesus. Look at this big stadium still in there in Ephesus. Going down the sidewalks. Now, again, most of this have been damaged over time. We even see how we took some of the symbols we use today. This is the symbol for modern doctors that they use. We took it from the Romans. Columns. Now here's a major street going from the major part of the city down here to the library. City of Ephesus in Greece. Just such a beautiful place to see. And to think that all of this is 2,000 years old. Here's a Roman bathroom. They had great toilets, but they used to have discussions when you were going to the bathroom. You talk with other people while you're there inside. But this is a Roman bathroom. Again, city of Ephesus in Greece. This is the main library. Of course, most of it is fallen apart. Here's looking up through the ceiling in Ephesus. Again, looking back up the hill towards the big stadium. Here's from the island of Rhodes in Greece, that again had been ruled by the Romans at one time. It was a great city for protection. See how they built their cities at the top where they could look out around the bay. Remember, Greece was formed with the explosion of the islands, volcanoes exploded and created hundreds of islands. And these are Romans ruled many of them looking around their islands. Here's the city of Santorini in Greece. Again, this is a beautiful city where everything's on the side of the hills, but everything is painted white with blue. Again, just the colors. Beautiful city, Santorini in Greece. And here is Roman artifacts in Spain and in Portugal. For example, here's the city of Toledo. And it was a city because, a good protected city, because three sides of the city was this river going around, three sides of it. Then the city it's almost like a small island. And here was a bridge built by Romans. So it was easy to protect this city of Toledo in Spain. Again, here's the river going around three sides of the city. Aqueducts built throughout Spain and Portugal. Here's the where they have the bullfights, very popular in Spain today. So I hope you enjoyed these pictures. I hope you want to become a world traveler. And we'll be talking later about the Roman Empire. Thanks.